know, people like to say that bad company corrupts good morals, but it's one of those things you don't really understand until you see it happen in slow motion, like watching a candle melt away. And that's exactly what happened to Cynthia. Cynthia was every parent's dream child, the kind of daughter that made neighbors nod and say, "Aw, you people are lucky, oh." Firstborn of four, she grew up in a house where order wasn't negotiable. Her father, a retired army officer, didn't even need to raise his voice to make a point. His presence alone could straighten your back. Her mother was the kind of woman who believed in routine, meals on time, church on Sunday, and manners in public. Cynthia's childhood was full of books, chores, and a clear line between right and wrong. She was the girl who would pick up a wrapper from the ground, just so her mother wouldn't scold her. She didn't talk back, she didn't skip assignments, and she certainly didn't entertain boys. By the time she finished secondary school, she had never been to a club, never tasted alcohol, and barely even had male friends. People assumed it was her nature, that she was just born that way. But the truth, it was discipline, boundaries, and fear of disappointing her parents. So, when she got admission into a federal university far from home, her parents didn't worry much. Her father even said, "If all my children were like you, I would sleep well at night." The first semester went exactly as everyone expected. She went for lectures, came back to the hostel, cooked her own food, washed her clothes, and called home twice a week. She didn't mingle much, just exchanged polite greetings. She kept her head down, but life has a funny way of introducing cracks in the walls we think are solid. The shift began with a group assignment. She was paired with Tonia and Favor, two girls who were as different from her as night and day. They wore bold lipstick to class, walked in late with their hips swaying, and laughed in a way that made everyone look. Cynthia wasn't interested in being close to them, but assignments meant meetings, and meetings meant conversations. Conversations became jokes, and jokes turned into a strange kind of friendship. It started small. They'd save her a seat in lectures, tease her about her boring hairstyles, or share snacks during breaks. Tonia, the louder of the two, always said, "Babe, this your good girl life, no day paid. University is for enjoyment." Cynthia would just smile. "I'm fine like this." But the thing about peer pressure is that it rarely comes as force. It comes as laughter intrusion, tiny little try-it-now moments. One Friday evening, Tonia invited her to a birthday party off campus. "You don't have to drink or dance," she promised. "Just come and see how we enjoy. Free food, free music." Cynthia hesitated. She had never been to such a thing. But Tonia and Favor kept insisting, saying it was just for 1 hour. She went. The music was loud, the lights dim, and the air heavy with a mixture of cigarette smoke and perfume. People were laughing, dancing, moving as if life had no consequences. Cynthia sat in a corner clutching a bottle of malt, trying to act invisible. Then a man in his late 20s came over. He was dressed sharp, smelled like expensive cologne, and had a smile that made her forget how to breathe. "You're too fine to be sitting here alone," he said. They talked. He told her about his job in Abuja, how he was just visiting a friend on campus. She found herself laughing, really laughing, at his jokes. By the end of the night, she had given him her number. That was the beginning. First, it was occasional chats, then lunch dates, then weekend outings. He introduced her to things she'd never tried before, fancy restaurants, wine and gifts. She liked the attention. Soon, she started going out more, not always with him, but with Tonia and Favor too. She bought shorter dresses, learned to apply makeup, and stopped wearing her hostel sandals outside. The cigarettes came next. At first, she wrinkled her nose whenever Tonia lit one. But one evening, after a stressful day, she took a puff just to see how it feels. It burned her throat, made her cough, but she laughed it off. By her second year, Cynthia's parents barely recognized her voice on the phone. She no longer called twice a week. Sometimes she'd go to weeks without picking their calls, claiming network problems or busy schedule. Her grades began to slip. She told herself she'd catch up later. After all, she had connections now. The first pregnancy happened during the long vacation. She sat on her bed staring at the test strip, her heart pounding. Panic set in. She told Tonya, who didn't even flinch, "Relax, babe. There's a doctor we use. Quick and safe." It was over in a few hours. Painful, yes, but manageable. She didn't tell her parents. The second time, she barely cried. She just called the same doctor. By the fourth, it was routine. The fifth time changed everything. It was her final year. The man responsible was a married businessman who had been paying her rent, buying her wigs, and sponsoring her weekend getaways. When she told him, he sighed and said, "Don't worry, I'll handle it." She expected the same smooth process as before, but halfway through the procedure, something went wrong. The pain was sharper, deeper, almost unbearable. She screamed, but the doctor kept telling her to relax. By the end, she was bleeding heavily. The doctor gave her some tablets and told her to rest. The bleeding didn't stop. Days passed, and she grew weaker. Fever gripped her at night. On the sixth day, she dragged herself to a proper hospital. After several tests, the doctor called her in. His tone was calm, but his words felt like a knife. "Your womb has been severely damaged. I'm sorry. You won't be able to carry a child again." The room went silent. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. "You mean, I can't ever have children?" she asked, her voice shaking. He nodded. "We can discuss other options, but naturally, no." She went home and cried until her chest hurt. She thought about all the choices she'd made. The nights out, the cigarettes, the men, the abortions, and for the first time, she felt truly afraid of her future. When she told Tonya, her friend went quiet for a long moment. "This could happen to me too," she whispered. "God forbid." The news spread among their circle. Suddenly, Cynthia wasn't the big girl anymore. She was a warning. The same girls who used to envy her lifestyle began pulling back, attending church again, avoiding risky relationships. Even Tonya started dressing differently. Her parents found out by accident. Her mother visited unannounced and found the hospital papers in her drawer. The confrontation that followed was worse than anything she'd feared. Her father didn't shout. He just looked at her with eyes that had no strength left to be angry. "After everything we gave you," he said quietly, "this is what you chose." The disappointment was heavy. Her younger siblings, once told to be like your sister, now heard whispers about her in the neighborhood. Cynthia graduated, but her life was never the same. Suitors came, but when she told them the truth, they disappeared. Some men stayed for a while, but most wanted children. She couldn't give them that. She became the example parents used when warning their daughters. "Do you want to end up like Amaka?" they'd say. Her friends changed. They became more cautious, more selective. But Amaka carried her punishment alone. And if you ask her now, she'd tell you in a voice barely above a whisper, "One wrong friendship can cost you everything." Everything? Cynthia's story is not just hers alone. It's a warning echoed in the whispers of many. Choices we make, the company we keep, and the paths we follow can change the course of our lives forever. Sometimes, the smallest step away from who we were can lead to a place we never imagined. But even in the darkest moments, there's hope, the strength to rise, to learn and to rebuild. Remember, your future is shaped by the friends you choose and the love you give yourself first.
If you enjoyed the story you watched, please check out my channel. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more.